everybody. How are y'all doing? Okay, I heard this guy the other day who has this channel on a podcast I was listening to. This is from a channel called NDE NDE Central. And he talks about life after death and near-death experiences and stuff like that. This kind of stuff's always interested me. So let's check this out. This is Life After Death. What is a near-death experience? So let's check it out. Death is not extinguishing the light. It is putting out the lamp because dawn has come.
What happens when we die? It is one of man's most enduring questions. Depictions of an afterlife date back tens of thousands of years. It can be found etched on stone in cave walls and painted on artifacts.
Everybody's always
ritual
wondered
burial
that.
sites around the world. It is hidden in secret burial chambers deep in the Egyptian pyramids, as well as the ancient passage tombs of Scotland and Ireland. It is depicted in the artwork, places of worship, and sacred texts of the Christians, the Jews, the Muslims, the Hindus, and other religious and spiritual disciplines being practiced around the world today.
Oh, look at all those people.
Yet it still requires great faith to accept these beliefs, something we find in short supply in our ever faster paced, more materialistic culture. What if the question of the existence of life after life could now be answered with certainty? What if we now know what it looks like, what it feels like? A closer look into what is known as the near-death experience is now giving us just this opportunity.
That could either be a good thing or a bad thing to know what it feels like. What if it's bad?
Advances in medicine, particularly more effective resuscitation techniques introduced in the 1960s, has enabled doctors, nurses, and EMTs to bring millions of clinically dead people back to life, something that was not possible before this time. In a state of clinical death, most frequently brought on by cardiac arrest, the respiratory center near the brainstem stops functioning, evidenced by the cessation of breathing. Blood flow to the brain stops altogether.
Okay.
There is a complete loss of electrical activity in the cerebral cortex, which results in a flat EEG. All brain functioning ceases, and it becomes impossible to be conscious or to form memories.
So you wouldn't be able to dream either, I would think.
And yet, it is in just this state of clinical death when people are reporting having the most profound experiences of their lives.
Yeah.
With survivors reporting these experiences in such high numbers and with such clarity and consistency, they are opening a window into another realm of existence we can no longer ignore.
Okay, when my dad passed away, or before he passed away, a few years before, he had to go through an open heart surgery. And I remember afterwards seeing him in the hospital room after it was all over and everything. See, they lost him on the table, and then they brought him back. And I remember him asking us if we saw the video. And we're like, what video? He says, the video of my operation. They videotaped it. I said, he said that the camera was up above, and it was like all he could see was himself laying on the table and all these doctors and nurses running around him like they were frantic, like going crazy. What does that tell you right there? There was no video of the surgery. So he was above his body. He just didn't know how to process it, didn't know what it was. He was above, looking down, seeing what was going on. And the only way that he could think to process it was that it was a video. They videotaped it, and he was watching that. So I'm thinking he was in a different realm for a minute. And he also said afterwards, he actually started to cry, and my dad wasn't the type that would cry. And he said that he saw my grandma, his mom, and she told him he had to go back, and that's when he started to cry, that it wasn't time yet and everything. And so I believe in it. I believe in life after death. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's continue.
A near-death experience is a profound and life-changing event which follows a markedly consistent progression, beginning with an awareness that the person has died, accompanied by an overwhelming sense of peace.
He was
The
different
majority
afterwards.
have an out-of-body experience where from above they see their bodies as doctors and nurses attempt to resuscitate them.
There we go, right there. He was a lot more mellow.
Enhanced consciousness people describe as more real than real. They find themselves being pulled up and out of the room into what looks like a dark tunnel or path. They may be met by departed loved ones or spiritual beings who greet them and help guide them forward towards an intense light. As they pass through and out of the tunnel, they enter an expansive world that radiates an unconditional love they cannot fully articulate. All around them they describe a wondrous beauty, colors they have never experienced before, flowers and grass and trees that glow with energy, light coming not from a sun, but radiating from everything within this realm.
Right, yeah. I heard that in the podcast.
Time loses all meaning as past, present, and future become one. They may meet a spiritual being who will guide them on a life review. Here, they will see and relive all of the events of their lives. But this time, they will also experience them from the perspective of those who are affected by those events, good and bad. Some will describe meeting God or a godlike figure, radiating an intense and absolute love. They are in awe and humbled that they would be the subject of this being's complete and absolute attention. They express feeling as if they are finally home. They may have questions answered, learn of their life's purpose, receive insights into the meaning of our existence, and some will be shown the mysteries of the universe itself. Some say they felt they were there for hours, others days, or even months. But ultimately, a border is reached. Some are given a choice to stay, but most are told their work is not finished, and they must go back.
That's what my dad was told.
None want to re-enter their bodies, not just for the physical pain. They experienced so much more freedom in what felt like their truer manifestation. They do not see how they will fit into what now seems so small and confining. And upon their return, they describe an intense sadness at having to leave this realm, but a comfort in knowing they will one day return. We may not know what lies beyond that barrier, but we now know there is something more. So are these NDEs real?
I think they are.
The statistical significance of the vast amount of peer-reviewed, published research accumulated by independent researchers and those associated with respected universities and medical institutions around the world, can no longer be ignored. Nor can it be explained away as mere chance. NDE reports worldwide are striking in their similarity, regardless of a person's culture, race, gender, sexuality, or religious beliefs. Another commonality is the permanent shift in attitudes and beliefs that follow an NDE, changes that do not occur with those reporting clinical death who do not also experience an NDE. Most express being more accepting of others, much less tied to the material world, and with an absolute certainty that there is life after life. Almost 100% report no longer having any fear of death.
That's awesome.
96% say they were, without exception, more real than anything they have experienced before or since. And 54% report major life changes, with follow-up studies 20 years later showing virtually no fall-off in the intensity they originally experienced. Further strengthening the data's veracity is corroboration from doctors and nurses of what survivors describe happening in the operating room during clinical death, the most irrefutable proof of an NDE. 45% report an out-of-body experience in which they can accurately recount what was said and being done during resuscitation from a vantage point outside of their bodies. This phenomenon also supports the theory of non-local consciousness, a consciousness beyond and apart from our physical bodies.
Right, because his brain wasn't working.
With our growing understanding of quantum physics, much of this data is being revealed as having a basis in science as well. The vast and growing body of evidence collected over half a century clearly supports what those cave paintings and spiritual texts have been telling us for thousands of years. We are much more than the physical, material world we see around us. We are much more than our bodies. Death is not an end to our being. It is merely a transition into a different, more expansive existence. It is no longer necessary to debate the existence of an afterlife.
Right. I agree.
It is time we now begin to embrace and discuss its implications for each of us and the human race itself.
Well, that's kind of cool. That's really interesting to me. When I heard that the other day, I just had to get on YouTube and find the guy because he mentioned that he had a YouTube channel. That was really neat, I thought. I used to be afraid when I was younger, of course. I think everyone was afraid to die. But anymore, I'm not even afraid anymore. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just both my parents are gone, so maybe it's just them helping me through it. Helping me to not be afraid because they know that there's nothing to really be afraid of. I don't know. You let me know what you think of all that in the comments down below. I think it's really neat. My dad was always, when he was younger, I remember growing up and stuff, he was really wild. He'd get in fights and stuff like that. I remember him coming home and being beat up or having beat someone up. But then after all that happened and he went through that experience, he seemed a lot more chill, a lot more mellow. He just let things go a lot easier. A lot different person. I think he was more of his real self. Anyways, that's what I think. And Now it's time for a joke. Something my dad really loved was jokes. Today I spotted an albino Dalmatian. It was the least I could have done.